This evening, Books and Books is very happy to present Ms. Annie Getzinger, presenting her new book, Girl in Dior. Ms. Getzinger is a best-selling graphic novelist who has been published in Circus, L'Echo des Savants, Fluide Glacial, Metal Hurlant, and Pilote, among other places. In 2014, she was awarded the grand prize BD Boom, the first woman to win this prize. Her first graphic novel, Casque d'Or, won 2 prizes at the prestigious Festival d'Angoulême. She went on to publish the graphic novel Aurore, which told the story of the life of French writer Georges Sand, followed by historical and crime comic books. In addition to writing graphic novels, Ms. Getzinger has drawn press cartoons for various newspapers, including Le Monde and La Croix. Her realistic style, in combination with her use of bright and varied colors, has helped her become one of the grandes dames of French comic art. With this book, she gives us a biographical docudrama that marries fiction with the story of one of the greatest couturiers in history. It is a breathless and stunning presentation of Christian Dior's greatest designs and beautifully rendered. Please give a very warm welcome to Ms. Annie Getzinger.
Thank you for your invitation. I suppose you listen me. And this is my first time in USA, so I ask be patient with my poor English. And I thank you really very much to invite me in that place, with a very warm place, with a lot of passion for books and for literature in general. To introduce a little bit my talking about that book, I propose to show you a short video. First one is around résumé of the career the Christian Dior, and later a short video was been made at my home before the publishing Girl in Dior. So you can.
Extravagant, spectacular, provocative, scandalous, shocking rather than chic, but the right words nonetheless to describe fashion according to Dior. February 12th, 1947. Outside, the climate was morose and chilly, but hidden inside one of Paris's smart townhouses, just off the Champs-Élysées at 30 Avenue Montaigne, flowered women twirled and whirled before an ecstatic audience. A newcomer to the haute couture world, Christian Dior's first collection was presented in his fashion house, inaugurated on October 8, 1946, thanks to the financial backing of textile magnate Marcel Boussac. In contrast to the simple, functional fashion trends of the time, Dior stood out with his opulent, phantasmagorical creations, a stunning marriage of elegance and eccentricity. Astonished, the all-powerful editor of Harper's Bazaar, Carmel Snow, exclaimed, "It's such a new look." New look. The expression immediately caught on and made the headlines the next day. Dior's success was sealed as he rose to fame in the space of a day, at the age of 42. Born in Granville in Normandy, France in 1905, this shy, solitary gentleman may have come under the spotlights late in life, but he never left them from that time on. He became an irrefutable authority by designing the new silhouette of the season twice a year, thereby dictating the canons of elegance of the 50s entirely single-handedly. Never one to fall into the trap of exclusive fixed rules, he was always ready to take risks. 1954. He dramatically ended the reign of the new look and launched the H-line. Gone were the soft shoulders, high waists, and flowing hips as he embarked on this sensational U-turn. By constantly calling himself into question, each of Christian Dior's collections was full of suspense and awaited feverishly by the press and clients alike, among whom were countless stars and members of royalty. Dior dressed the rich, the famous, and the powerful of the world, all of whom jostled for a front seat as the lights went down before each new collection walked down the catwalk.
Christian Dior a décidé, les jupes seront courtes. l'événement capital du mois d'août aura été l'explosion de la bombe Dior, qui a mis le feu aux poudres de riz et déclenché une nouvelle guerre des deux jupes. Au château de Blenheim, la princesse Margaret d'Angleterre est venue assister au triomphe d'un conquérant français. Ce conquérant, c'est Christian Dior.
No other couturier has aroused such interest. He captivated and entranced. Decried by some and acclaimed by others. From Paris to New York, from Tokyo to Sydney, with a stopover at Caracas, Christian Dior became known the world over. Christian Dior also knew the value of promotion. He didn't hesitate to invite the television to see his new collection. Yet another precedent which enabled the whole of France to see his latest designs in color. In the spring of 1955, he presented his A-line.
A, c'est la lettre sur laquelle Christian Dior a calqué la ligne de la saison.
In the autumn of the same year, he reversed the A and launched Y. Dior disconcerted, but women followed him faithfully. By the Flèche, Aimant, Libre, and last of all, in 1957, the Fuso collections. Christian Dior has left us, but Christian Dior lives on. Much more than a fleeting fashion phenomenon, Dior has become a legend, and legends are forever.
So as you can see, it's a charm of the 50s with colors and commentaries, and I liked that short video because for me it's the taste of that period, and it helped me also to imagine most of my pictures, because in fact I used photographies more than real dresses. I can see them in the museums, but I most prefer pictures because the dresses, suits, costumes are living. They are habited by a body in a way. And I was researching also about colors because in that period it was most of reportage in black and white. And as you have seen, Dior used few printing, but a lot of embroidery, and also some colors he liked very much, like red, blue marine, dark, and gray, and black. And this was also important for me to have the shadow of the period. And if you want, now we will continue with a short video which has been made at my home. And as you will constatate, my hair has changed. And the reason is very simple. Last year, I could not imagine I could be here now, because last year I was at hospital with a grave illness. So I've changed a little bit.
La place que j'occupe dans l'univers de la bande dessinée ne m'intéresse pas, ne me préoccupe pas. Pour moi, ce qui me préoccupe, c'est d'avoir une histoire à raconter, de travailler avec un éditeur et de publier un livre. Les souvenirs de mon enfance, ils sont liés au dessin, bien sûr, parce que j'ai toujours été un enfant solitaire. Peu de familles de mon âge autour de moi, donc on me donnait du papier, des crayons, j'étais tout à fait tranquille. Je laissais les autres dans leur coin et moi je vivais ma vie sur une table avec mes crayons de couleur. Et puis dans l'environnement familial, il y avait deux aspects. Du côté masculin, c'était plutôt l'univers du meuble, les ébénistes, et du côté féminin, l'univers de la couture. Et évidemment, en tant que fille, j'étais plutôt plus attirée par les tissus, les boutons, les rubans, les élaborations de robes, de vêtements que je voyais chez mes aïeules, grand-mère et grand-tante. Je ne suis pas appelée par la bande dessinée, je suis appelée par les histoires. Parce que j'avais un père qui était plutôt scientifique et qui en même temps adorait nous raconter des histoires. Il créait des histoires pour mon frère et pour moi. J'ai pensé longtemps plus tard, mais finalement je fais de la bande dessinée aussi avec des scénaristes pour que eux me racontent des histoires avant que moi je les dessine. Et ça c'est quelque chose qui a créé un imaginaire évidemment de très très jeune. Donc c'était pas la bande dessinée, mais c'était l'histoire en général. La bande dessinée dans ma famille était pas du tout réprimée comme dans certaines autres. Donc j'ai eu de la bande dessinée, j'ai eu des livres, j'ai eu des romans, j'ai eu de tout très 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 vite. Et encore une fois, je ne suis pas quelqu'un qui a besoin de beaucoup d'action, de faire du sport, de faire des choses extraordinaires. Non, moi j'étais plutôt une contemplative et je le suis restée. Je savais ce que je voulais raconter, mais je ne voulais pas non plus, dans cette histoire, me dire, bon là, je me donne toutes les libertés possibles et imaginables. Évidemment, il fallait qu'il y ait de la robe, et finalement, il fallait qu'il y ait du spectaculaire. Mais c'est d'autant plus intéressant de se réprimer aussi, d'avoir sa propre censure, de dire calmons-nous, il y aura des doubles pages, mais on ne va pas faire que des doubles pages pour mettre des belles robes en scène. Elles viennent à un certain moment de l'histoire, et quelle histoire je vais raconter. Donc j'aurais pu parler de la vie de Dior, depuis sa naissance jusqu'à sa mort, mais ce qui m'intéressait, c'était évidemment cette aventure de haute couture qui s'est déroulée entre 47 et 57. J'ai fait d'ailleurs pas un travail habituel, puisque quand je travaille avec un scénariste, j'ai un manuscrit papier, alors que moi, travaillant à la fois scénariste et dessinatrice, je me suis fait une sorte de canevas, de découpage, pour me dresser une sorte de fil conducteur, de chemin de fer, pour savoir où j'allais, et déterminer aussi ce que je gardais et ce que j'éliminais, puisque dans la vie de quelqu'un, il y a quand même des moments qui sont plus anecdotiques que d'autres. J'ai pas de stratégie dans cette histoire, dans ce désir. Moi, à chaque fois que je fais quelque chose, j'ai le désir d'être le plus honnête possible par rapport à mon métier, par rapport à ce que j'ai envie de faire, ne pas me trahir, ne pas trahir mes convictions, ma sensibilité, ce qui m'est propre. Je voulais parler du créateur, mais pas seulement de sa personnalité, mais aussi de tout son univers, son environnement. Et donc du départ du croquis jusqu'au moment où on distribue les croquis aux différents ateliers, parce qu'il y a les ateliers de flou, les ateliers de tailleurs. Dans tous ces ateliers, il y avait ces femmes extrêmement expérimentées, expertes dans leur domaine, pour traduire de ce qui était croquis sur un bout de papier, un objet, une réalisation tout à fait sublime. Pour moi, les grands principes de l'élégance, c'est la simplicité. Monsieur Dior disait « less is more ». Je pense toujours que les femmes les plus élégantes sont celles qui savent ce qui leur convient. C'est l'équilibre entre ce qu'ils portent et son intérieur, ce qu'ils dégagent de la chose. Quand j'ai démarré cette histoire, je me suis fixé une décennie, le 12 février 1947, jusqu'au mois d'octobre 1957, où Christian Dior est décédé d'une crise cardiaque à Montecatini, en Italie. Ça me permettait de montrer la création de la maison, le développement de sa maison, jusqu'à la création d'un véritable empire tel qu'on le connaît maintenant. Non, il fallait un autre personnage, une sorte de faire-valoir aux couturiers, qui n'étaient pas évidemment ses collaboratrices, qui elles font partie de l'histoire de la maison. En ce qui concerne cette jeune fille, je pourrais dire que tout est faux, mais ce que je voulais, c'est que ce soit vraisemblable. On pouvait devenir mannequin parce qu'on était jolie, élégante, qu'on savait marcher et qu'on avait de l'allure. Donc le petit personnage de Clara, au départ, est un personnage relativement anonyme qui va devenir aussi une très jolie, jeune, élégante parisienne au travers des transformations de la maison de couture. On est tous dans notre univers des êtres singuliers et on nous aime justement à cause de cette singularité, non pas parce qu'on ressemble, qu'on est interchangeable. On n'est pas interchangeable. Et alors on est peu ou bien, mais on est ce qu'on est, ni plus ni moins. Le plus difficile quand on aborde un personnage, surtout lui qui était un personnage connu, qui a été photographié, c'est de l'attraper dans le trait. Il est ressemblant ou pas, mais en tout cas c'est mon Dior. C'est pas le Dior de quelqu'un d'autre. Je pense que si Monsieur Dior pouvait voir ces pages, pouvait voir cette histoire, parce que je le connais bien, évidemment par les photos, certaines vidéos aussi qui existent sur lui. C'est un homme qui avait de l'humour, qui avait le sens de la farce. Et je pense que mon grand plaisir, ce serait qu'il ait l'œil qui frise comme ça, qui me regarde et qui me dise vous m'avez compris, Madame Getzinger. Ça, ce serait ma plus belle récompense. Et moi, pouvoir lui dire écoutez, monsieur, j'étais à votre service, comme ces merveilleuses couturières, voilà.
You see a little bit the process of that book. First, I made a contract with my publisher in France, Dargaud, and I mean it was not sponsoring by Dior, but at the same time I didn't want to hide my project, so I contacted them to thinking about the archive of the house. To see some sketches of Monsieur Dior and also some details I missed, some details as in technical details sometimes. Of course, I have read before a lot about him, especially also an autobiography of him, whose name is Christian Dior and I, because at the same time he was double. He felt always he had a double personality, a creator and a private person. He was quite hiding a part of his life, and that is a very interesting book, very well written, with a lot of details, and also books around this fashion in general. And I interviewed dressmakers who started with him when they was very young. They was 17 in 47, so you imagine the age they have now. And they remember all the adventure with passion. Part of it, I suppose, because they was their youth, and also a New Deal. After the big war, it means we turn to some kind of normal life with beauty, frivolity, fashion. We can forget all the privations of the war. And it was really moving for me because they remind to me my grandmother, aunt grandmother, who was making so nice dresses, and I see the movements they did talking about fabric, about talking about buttons, and I was coming back in my childhood in a way. So with my possibilities, I try to restitute a little bit that feeling, because for me a creator is very important, but also important is people around him, specialists, and as I tell, the ateliers who was specialists in each kind of dresses, and this is over the sketches he could do, how they transform a sketch into something really special, really luxurious, and that was my obsession in a way. So maybe you have some questions for me. Also with pleasure.
Merci pour votre présentation.
Merci.
For your presentation, it is wonderful, and we have a feeling to go back, in the story. I'd like to know, how long did it take for you to create your book?
Between two, I started. We calculate. It's very difficult to explain because we don't calculate the time into hours. But since the moment we sign a contract till the moment we published, and it means quite 2 years. Because I start researching, of course, and at the same time building the story and making sketches to go slowly, but time to time to build all the déroulé of the story.
If you have a question, you can raise your hand when you get to you with the microphone. You had a question, Greg?
The graphic novel that you have, that particular genre, I don't know if it's even called a genre, it's just a perfect match for fashion. I mean, how did you find out about graphic novels? It's relatively new, and why did you choose that?
It's really different with comics because pages.
You call them comics?
Comics, a comic book is really different because different in size, and also the pages. It is less pages, but with smaller images, and the kind of format of a graphic novel gives you a lot of flexibility, and you can use shorter sequences and also develop double pages to present a défilé, for example. And it is something I thought always to prepare the surprise through the story, to use the right pages for the défilé to make it spectacular in a way.
I'm very excited to read it.
Thank you. I hope you are not disappointed.
This is a question up here. Okay, 1 second.
Yes, I have a question. What made you pick Christian Dior and not Chanel or any of the other designers? Here in the U.S., where I think Chanel is more popular, and I would like to know your opinion on how are they regarded in France.
In fact, there are three big names in modern fashion: Chanel, Saint Laurent, and Dior. And it was already so many things made around Chanel, novels, movies, include musical, and also some of movies or books about Saint Laurent. And curiously, it was nothing about around Christian Dior. And he interested me, in fact, because he came just after the war, at the right moment. He dreamed about the past in a way, as women, for their part, was also dreaming to forget all the privations of during for years, because France was in peace but occupied by Nazis, and Nazis had made strong laws. People was missing everything, and include food. So when he decided to, with the help of Marcel Boussac, as the video explained, he has the opportunity to make exactly what he wants. And he dreamed about also his childhood, because he was coming from a bourgeois family, rich, who lost everything in the crash of the 30s. And he had also a strong life between his childhood and his fashion house. And he want to come back with elegance, and but not extravagancy. To have the right point, the right methods to make a dress, not so much, but to be really luxurious, gorgeous. And that interests me because for himself he was hidden. He was an elegant man, of course, but at the same time he was not researching to be in a jet society. He was really working strongly in his dreams. And in fact, maybe the first part of his life is more interesting, but who interests me is the first défilé, who changed really the lines of fashion of that period. And in fact, when you look at the fashion magazines later, you see he changed really, il a imprimé a new vision of fashion. It's really a big impact.
There's plenty of time for questions or comments. To raise your hand, I'll get to you with the microphone. Sure.
I was just wondering how come it happened that this is the first graphic novel that's been translated in English and published here in the United States?
Maybe because of the side of the book, it's easier to read, and I think also Dior's name is a part of the success of it. I don't know, but anyway, I'm very happy to be translated, and I have to confess it's a good translation. And I think it's no difference between the feeling you can have in French and in English.
If I understood you correctly, you said that you contacted the House of Dior when you started this project. What was their reaction?
At the same time, they was very nice and surprised. And to show my project, I brought some pictures. I've already started, so I have some pages to introduce my project. They saw that I was able to draw a dress, and more than a dress, in a way, haute couture dress, with very, very different, because it's also something changing in the fabric, the size, and how the women is working with that kind of clothes. So they was not enthusiastic, because comics, world of comics and world of luxe is so different, two planets. But and you can imagine that book is less expensive than a lipstick Dior. But at the same time, they opened the archive and they helped me, because sometimes I need some words specific of fashion, some conseil. I was open, and they was also open to my project. And now they realize it's working time to time to be something important, because it has been published in Italian, in English, in Korean, and end of the year in Spain. So they realize it's something a little bit serious.
Oh, that's good. Now, Korea. Why Asia and Korea? No other country in Asia.
I don't know. It's always a surprise It's always a surprise. For the moment, Japanese are interested, but they have not bought the rights. You keep it like a surprise, a good one, of course.
While you were writing the book, while you were learning more about Mr. Dior, do you think you could distinguish certain similarities in between yourself and Mr. Dior?
Ah, oui. Yeah. I think we are shy together, each other. We are working alone. He was quitting the fashion house to make his projects. He was closing in his country house to make sketches, a lot of sketches, during 2 or 3 weeks, researching new lines, inspiration in general. And it was around 500 sketches, and when he was empty in a way, he felt he could come back to Avenue Montaigne, the address of Dior, and later start the big stuff. And in a way, for me it's quite the same, because I'm working alone at my atelier and researching, and later building the story. And you are deep in the story, you can forget hours and many things. And to be artist is not especially difficult when you are a woman, but woman or man, you have to be sometimes egoistic, forget all around you to progress in your work. And in that sense, in that way, I feel a little bit like Monsieur Dior, mais chacun dans son domaine.
Madame, was Mr. Dior the origin of the cosmetic and perfume lines, or those began later on?
He started the first collection with Miss Dior, in fact, so in 47, and later he made cosmetics came later. But in 55 he opened Dior's Baby, who was inaugurated by Grace Kelly. And after he died, he did also Dior Monsieur, Dior Men. But at the same time, he opened his fashion house in Paris. Very, very quick, he opened also fashion house in New York, at the Fifth Avenue, and he developed a lot of boutiques around the world, especially for American buyers and South American buyers. He had some boutique in Caracas, if I remember well, London, everywhere. And he didn't make shoes for himself, but he made contracts with Roger Vivier, who signed his shoes. He made also underdresses, because his fashion needs to have some corset sometime, and he developed that kind of work around this fashion house.
Who else has a question or comment?
Your first novel in this technique with drawings, and is this the first time you do it?
Yes, indeed. I always work with making my own colors with watercolor. But I use that technique with different paper, so it was more fragile paper. I use light table, something was different with the other comics I've done before. Because when you work in comics, sometimes you work first in black and white and you put a color later. In that book I used color before, pencils of course, but later colors and a little bit black to finish.
All right. Questions or comments? Anyone else who would like to ask a question? Well, if there are no more questions, then just a reminder for our internet audience watching at home, still plenty of time for you to call the number on your screen, and we will ship a copy of Girl in Dior to wherever you are in the United States free of charge. For those of you here in the house, we have the book for sale at the counter in the front room over there. She's going to be signing over there at the table to the left of the screen, and it's been such a pleasure having Annie Getzinger here in the house tonight. Let's please give her a hand. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. Did I pronounce all those words right in my introduction?
It was perfect.
It was perfect.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.